Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We are finally here in March having our February sabbatical class. As many of you know, I think I was very sick last week. I'm actually sick again. I've gotten round two because the entire company, Sage Goddess, is sick. And my kids are sick and all their friends are sick. And so we're going to get through tonight. I have tea. I've taken a bunch of medicine, so just so you know, but I'm not quite better yet. But I'm thrilled to see you. And we have a lot to talk about tonight. I can't show you my desk, but tonight is really special. And I want to start by saying that, and it's really interesting, when I announced this topic for our sabbatical class, thank you guys so much for the sweet wishes. It's just a flu, but you know, I mean, it's one of those things that's not going anywhere. When I announced the topic, some people were really excited about tonight and some people weren't. And there were a couple people who were pretty vocal about saying that they kind of wished I was going to go more ancient in terms of like real historical tonight and less kind of metaphysical, right? Like less information that we don't have scientific proof to support. And so it was interesting because I went through because I was super excited to go more in the direction of the latter, but kind of a hybrid, right? Like I have a beautiful Enter Egypt invocation for you tonight that's going to take you and hopefully help you feel a little bit of what it would be like if we were doing actual ceremony in ancient Egypt tonight. So I sat with that for a minute. And I will tell you something. I'm coming back and sharing that because whenever you guys give feedback, I pause for a minute. You know, I'll stop and say, you know, should I have gone more that way? Or maybe next time I would do it a different way. But I have to tell you, and especially now, I am more sure tonight than ever before that this is exactly what you need right now. Like, I always trust the process. But I will tell you 1,000% beyond shadow of a doubt, tonight's class is important and you're here for a reason. I'm going to try to do my best. It's really fun because I have taught the Hermetic principles, I think, twice now. And so I think this is either the second or the third time. And tonight's is going to be the juiciest. I've never gone into as much detail or tried to put it together in this way before. It's a little bit different. And part of what we're going to do tonight, I appreciate you guys, but I always want your feedback. What I'm saying is I was really listening to those comments and I thought, gosh, am I really off? Because when I feel like I'm really off, I'll own that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, maybe I did go in the wrong direction. And so I sat with it. And so just coming back now, it's a nice affirmation for me because I know we're right where we need to be. So we're going to come at it from a couple of different directions tonight, and we're going to try to find a practical application. Because one of the things I told you about in the tease for tonight is that we're going to talk about law of attraction. Because the law of attraction, in addition to a whole bunch of other things, is based on the Hermetic principles. Did you know that? And the Hermetic principles, depending on how far back you trace it, I'm going to give you the historical trace first, and then I'm going to give you the metaphysical trace, the spirit trace. Okay, so and then that way it's a hybrid of both, and you can kind of decide where you want to land in terms of what you think it is. If we get to it tonight, we can also go back and try to integrate this with the origin story of the Anunnaki and the story of gold, which is related to the Hermetic principles, which is related to alchemy. I mean, everything, when you start to expand out and really build your understanding of the origins of our universe, which is why I've taken this whole year to build this curriculum and do this with you. And in Sabbatical, we do kind of the magical edge of it, right? Because we do more of the mainstream stuff in full moon, and then we do more of the aromatherapy and aromagic. We do more of the gemstone side of it, and mineral and metal and gem-wise. And so this is where we pick up the magic. And so for me, I have to teach you the Hermetic principles. If we did a year, I will tell you something. If you ever take a course on magic, on shamanism, if you ever take a course on any of the esoteric arts, all the way up to and including modern day, which is why I included shamanism, because shamanism is shaped by the Hermetic principles. If you ever take a class on magic and they're not mentioned, or one of their other names, okay, you should ask, like, why isn't that being incorporated? Because it is literally the foundation of all modern magical practice. start to finish. And in fact, what I was telling my team is yesterday, there's even evidence of the Hermetic principles in Shakespeare's plays. I've been going through and starting to make lists of quotes from the different plays that show how Shakespeare was using the Hermetic principles to create, you know, a narrative arc in his plays. It's very interesting. So this wisdom, excuse me, is as old as time, but it is also the absolute foundation. And it's really funny because I've taken plenty of courses on magic over my lifetime. And even most of the serious courses I took did not mention Hermes Trismegistus or Trismegistus. It's usually Trismegistus. Didn't mention Hermes Trismegistus, did not mention Thoth, did not mention the Hermetic principles, or any of the corollary names that it goes by. And in hindsight, I look back and I'm like, how? If it's the foundation of everything, how do you not mention it? Here's why I think people don't talk about what we're going to talk about tonight, because it seems obvious and kind of dumb. And that's actually the trick of it. Because if you think it's too easy, you're not taking it seriously enough. Does that make sense? Like if you look on the face of the Hermetic principles, and we're going to go through the 7 tonight. So if you want to have something to take notes with, that's great. If you want to just enjoy the class and just enjoy the energy of it and not make it, you know, an academic exercise, that's okay too. The Kybalion is actually one of the Hermetic texts. There were many Hermetic texts. Most of them did not survive. The Kybalion or the Kybalion is actually where the 7 Hermetic principles come from. So I love that Andrea actually has her copy of the Kybalion, and you can find it on Amazon, right? Like these texts are not difficult to find. So let's smudge a little, and then we're gonna kind of dive right in, because I'm super excited to do this work with you tonight. And what's really special too, 2 more things I'll say about this. One is, you know, it's fun when you have a conversation, when you realize where else are you going to have the conversation? Do you know, like I feel really blessed to have you guys and the community that we have to be able to talk about these things. It's really cool, you know, and to be able to talk about them in a deep way. You know, the conversations that we're having in Sabbatical right now are not superficial. Like we're really digging in. And I think it's because all of us are at a point where we recognize a couple of things. One is our planet's in crisis. And the way I look at it is our planet is ascending to a higher level of dimensional awareness. Oh, I love that, Caitlin. She said her little boy is smiling at me. Our planet is ascending to a higher level of dimensional awareness. That doesn't mean we're going anywhere. That's not a literal process. That is, dimensional shifts happen. You could be sitting having dinner and experience a dimensional shift and have nothing in your body or your physical space or environment change. Your perspective shifts, but it doesn't mean anything physical happens to you. So whereas I think a lot of the gloom and doom people have assumed that it's going to mean something disastrous for the planet, the more I'm leaning into what's happening, what I'm sensing is, I don't think it's very literal. I think it's very metaphorical what's happening to all of us. But we are if you think about it, we are in labor right now. Have you ever experienced labor pains before? It's like just a hard pushing. And you remember what that was like. You remember being in the birth canal. You have a somatic cellular memory of being delivered by your mother. And so when the universe puts you in that cervix again and asks you to go through it again, because you get reborn how many times? How many times have you been reborn in your life? I think I'm on like number 6. I'm V6 right now, right? And so what happens during labor? Bones get broken, you know, your head gets concave. All part of you has to adjust to be able to survive, because the goal is just to get through and survive. That is not a really happy time. And so one of the messages as we go into this work tonight, because I want to set an intention with you for the work we're going to do tonight. Have you noticed, right, in the Sabbatical group, everybody, and as I read your posts, I send so much love to your heart space. And I want to take an opportunity like this to give you kind of a broad message, right? And yes, indeed. Happy birthday, Jen. We have a few birthdays actually this week. So all of you having birthdays, I just want you to know I see you and we're celebrating you. Oh, I lost my train of thought there for a second. It'll come back. Oh, okay, here we go. When you post and say, my shadow's coming up, I feel so bad, why am I so angry, things are so chaotic, I'm going through so much difficulty, I'm really having trouble, I wish I could just be happy, I wish I could just push through it, or could you pray for me, could you hold space for me? When you're going through all those things, okay, don't apologize for that. The universe is sculpting you, right? Don't apologize for that. We're all going through some version of that right now. And you don't have to apologize for it. I think if you're aware of it, and I think if you take responsibility for the energy that you bring, but you are all of those things. You are the fetus in the birth canal, and the child, and the adult, and the woman, and the crone. You are all of those things. You are the happy, joyful, beautiful, vibrant, sensual, desirable you. And you are also the super angry, frustrated, pissed off, sad, lonely, depressed, discouraged, because we all feel all of those things sometimes. That's all of you. And I don't really want just part of you. I'd rather have all of you. And when you come in and say, I'm going through all this shit right now and I'm in it, a couple of things. We don't have to take responsibility for what's going on in your life. We can hold space for you without taking on your issues. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I think it's really brave for you to acknowledge when you're in a difficult place, because we all get there. And the goal is not to push it down, shove it down, ignore it. Because when you do that, it's going to come up some other way. That's called repressing your shadow, and you don't want to do that. What you want to do is discern how you can use that energy wisely. How you can use that energy wisely. I will say this, sometimes when you are kind of mired in a negative or difficult situation, it can affect your vibration. And sometimes in ways that you don't even see. So one of the things you want to do is you want to communicate, and you want to let people mirror back to you. What are they seeing? What are they sensing? And give you feedback. Because it's okay to dance with your shadow and go through difficult times. You just can't live there. You can't live there. You have to find a way to integrate that shadow and get back to balance. The goal is not light. The goal is balance. I almost feel like I need to make a meme out of that. The goal is not light. The goal is balance. Light is not an attainable goal. You can't live in light all the time because you're human. You know what I mean? But you can't live in shadow either. Living in shadow looks like diseases, right? And trauma and loss. When you live in shadow, those are the situations and the times in your life where you feel like there's a dark cloud over you and like nothing goes right until you realize you're living in your shadow. And you can't do that unless you consciously want to do that. But that's a life of destruction, right? I mean, the shadow is destructive. The shadow is only safe when it's integrated with the light. But there always has to be that balance. So anyway, I share all that with you because just holding space with the siren. I share all that with you because it's really important for tonight. Tonight is wisdom. Tonight is all about you accessing a new level and layer of wisdom. And you learning how to use the oldest teachings on the planet to integrate and find balance with your shadow. And I'll tell you something. So we're going to talk about manifestation tonight. The thing I would like you to manifest, if you wanted me to help you set an intention, I think you should be trying to manifest balance and integration. I think sometimes setting an intention to shift your energy toward a defined goal is much more powerful than setting an intention to get a new job or, earn extra money, because by getting into right balance and a deeper sense of alignment, those things are going to come anyway. You know what I mean? So you might want to take this opportunity to do that. So we're all in it. I'm in it too. We're all in that birth canal and we're all watching and going, what's going to happen, right? Shit show of a government, shit show of politics, shit show of, planetary, weather patterns, and just everything seems, we're all watching. And even our planet itself is in labor to a certain extent. And then there'll be the release, right? After the child is born, there's the release. There's the release of energy. There's the release of blood flow and life force. There's the release of hormones, right? The release, the release, the release. And so the number one thing I want to leave you with tonight is, before we jump into the content, if you have any questions, the release is coming. You know, if you're in the thick of that, if you're in the middle of labor and it's been going for 24, 36 hours and you feel like you can't take it anymore, a release comes. It always does. And so you have to just find ways to remind yourself that it's coming. Labor doesn't last forever. There is a birth. And I will tell you, if you look at the date, we are coming up on spring equinox. And so what more appropriate time is there for your birth than in just a few weeks when nature herself mirrors that back to us? Okay, are you ready? So I'm going to light my emerald tablet candle. I have been waiting to do this. This candle is going to get serious use out of me. I have waited to use it until tonight. But I constantly work with the 7 Hermetic principles, constantly. They're infused in my curriculum. I incorporate them into my daily meditation. I use them for manifestation work. I use them with crystals because I believe that there are certain crystals that are more aligned to each one of the emerald or each one of the Hermetic principles. Use them, use them, use them. I'm going to light my charcoal disc so I can burn my incense. So if you have yours, you should do that too. Just kind of lighten it up in there. I'm a heavy breather when it comes to fire, but that should be well lit. Your Thoth perfume, which I hope you loved, the beautiful notes. Let me make sure that's not spiking too much. Pine, white sage, and tuberose, which is a combination I had never done before, and I hope you love it. You know, the tuberose had to be there. There had to be like a really beautiful white flower, really high note, a top note, but a high top note for the upper chakras. And that's where the tuberose came in. So I'm glad that you like that one. Okay. And you have your stones. Your emerald is the most important stone for tonight. You don't have to use the other ones if you don't want to, but hold on to your emerald during this whole ritual. I did ritual with these emeralds before sending them to you. So there is something very different about the emerald that you're holding. Some of you have mentioned it, and so I think a few of you have sensed it, but it is different. And so I want you to work with that. I would love to see you wire wrap this when we're done tonight. Look, the size is perfect. I hope you love that. Those emerald crystals are like knock your socks off, gorgeous. So we're working mostly with emerald tonight. And then I'm going to put just a little bit of my incense on my charcoal. Did you like your little scarab in your incense? That's cute. In case you didn't see, we packed it so you have a little scarab in your incense. Of course, scarab sacred to Thoth. And so I'm gonna start at the beginning, and then I will read to you in just a minute. Oh, I'm so glad you like it. Okay. Oh, and remind me. Okay, let me just say this first, because if you do any shopping, I set up a special sale just for you guys as a surprise for tonight. But make sure you use your code. It's 20LOVE for 20% off. But do not say a word. There's also a special listing I just put up in the shop for you guys too, but I don't want to talk about it till after class. But 20LOVE is a special gift for you guys. Okay. So let's begin at the beginning. Thoth has always been one of my favorite gods in the Egyptian pantheon or any other pantheon. And I think it's because I'm a writer. I really do. You know, at his core, when you think about who Thoth is the father of writing and communication. Thoth invented the hieroglyphs. And for a long time, even in my early studies, I would ask myself, you know, what's the connection there? Why was he the father of hieroglyphics? And what was it about, you know, because sometimes the story makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. And this one just didn't make sense to me until I started to learn about Lemuria and Atlantis. And then it was like, you know, those moments, light bulb moments or wherever, like where all the pieces fit together and all of a sudden you just get excited because the thing that you learned 10 years ago and the thing you learned just now, like all of a sudden all the pieces kind of fall into place. That's what that was for me, because what I realized was in all the stories of Atlantis, he's always referenced as a high priest, which of course, you know, spiritually in ancient times, there was a priest, a high priest, and a high priestess usually. In the early matriarchies like Minoa and Sumer, there was mostly a high priestess, not a high priest. But there were high priests and priestesses in Egypt, and there were high priests and priestesses in Lemuria and Atlantis. When I heard the story that he was the primary high priest of the Atlantean civilization and that he ruled, depending on where you read, Atlantis for more than 10,000 years by most estimations, and then was thought to have ruled in Egypt or been a god presence in Egypt for tens of thousands of years. And so his fingerprint across two of the major ancient civilizations that many of us feel a kinship to, and when I think of Egypt, I think of a home. I don't think of some foreign place, and I've never been to Egypt. So how it is that I think of a place I've never been as a home, that I feel warm and soothed and connected as soon as I smell the scents or hold the stones or hear the stories or see the images. And I think a lot of you have that experience too. And so how is it that we feel that connection? Same thing with Atlantis and Lemuria. And so we feel this kinship. Now, there are other parts of so many stories that get woven together. One of the other things that's very interesting to me is that in Christian narratives, Thoth is a very suspect god. Okay, and I think there's a couple of different reasons for that. So let me go down this little rabbit hole with you really quickly. If this ends up being interesting later, we can always come back to it. I think part of why there's Christian anxiety around Thoth is a fewfold. One is when you think about spiritual texts of importance. One thinks primarily of the Bible in the Christian tradition. So the idea that there are these very sacred texts, very secret texts, that in fact, these are the 7 keys to the entire universe. And I believe that's true. I actually do believe that the most important thing you ever learn in your life are the Hermetic principles. And that's a bold statement to make. But I think it should be taught in school. It certainly is not. But Aristotle is also implicated in the story of the Hermetic principles. There are many key figures, historians, scholars, and historical figures who are connected to the Hermetic texts. Now, many of those texts were destroyed. There were hundreds of what they considered to be Hermetic texts, these super secretive texts, and many of them were destroyed, especially during periods of Christian Reformation. And so a lot of the texts were lost. Fortunately, the Kabbalion and a few other texts were not lost. And so we still have those as records today. I think there's anxiety, though, because and go with me on this journey for just a second. Most of us believe that there is a civilization within the earth, and that civilization either established itself before, during, or immediately after the fall of Lemuria and Atlantis. And that's an active, thriving civilization within our planet. In the Christian narrative, the middle of the planet is not a place you want to go. It's actually thought to be hell. And again, Thoth, of course, is the father of the mystery schools. What they call the mystery schools were founded in Kemet or Egypt. And a lot of the things we're going to talk about tonight were the foundation of those mystery schools. In the Christian tradition, that's thought to be associated with the devil and with occult knowledge. And there are all kinds of connotations that sort of go down that rabbit hole too. I think those are two of the reasons. No one's ever told me that, and I've never read that anywhere. This is my own, Athena's 2 cents on this. I think the reason why there's Christian anxiety around Thoth is that he is said to be part of this collective that now resides in the center of the earth, and who are descendants of Lemuria and Atlantis. And then also the father of writing takes on very specific connotations. And because the Hermetic principles predate the Bible, that complicates matters to a certain extent. And so anyway, that's kind of my 2-second rabbit hole kind of tracing why I think there's anxiety about that. I've told you the story many times before about how my daughter saw a picture of Thoth in a book that we were reading together and pointed at him and said, "I know him." But when I asked her how, she said, "Oh, when I was pregnant with you, I told him all my secrets." Or when you were pregnant with me, I told him all my secrets. And what do you do with that? It was a very interesting dialogue that we had. But my daughter was like, and then my daughter, when she was talking about him, said he created writing. And it didn't say that on the page we were looking at, and she couldn't read yet. So how she said that about, I'd never ever mentioned anything to her about ancient Egypt or Thoth at all. So it was a really, it took my breath away. It's one of those moments where it was like, I don't know what to say to you right now, except that's pretty amazing. Okay. Now, of course, in modern times, everybody wants to be thought responsible for the Emerald Tablets. Okay. So Aristotle, there are some who say that Aristotle wrote the 7 principles in a letter to Alexander the Great as part of a treatise that he prepared for him. And the translation of that into Latin is called the Secret Secretorum, which are the secrets of secrets. And that Secret Secretorum exists today. One of the things that is, and this is the other kind of really interesting tidbit, and I want to give this to you before I forget, and then we'll cycle back. I will tell you, after doing all this research to prepare our class together and having studied this for a long time, I'm actually very curious about the Emerald Tablet and specifically about the Philosopher's Stone. The Emerald Tablet is very much connected to alchemy. And in alchemy, because alchemy is based on the principles, and in alchemy, there is thought to be a substance. Have you heard of the Philosopher's Stone? In alchemy, there's thought to be a substance that is immortal and that multiplies anything it touches, okay? And that substance is thought to, quote, descend from heaven and, quote, arise from earth. And the Philosopher's Stone has been said to be green. Now, how many green things do you know that descend from heaven and arise from the earth and have that kind of magical frequency to them? I think Moldavite, gives me chills to tell you, I think Moldavite is the Philosopher's Stone. And it would not surprise me, because the universe just is that way, because there are stories about the Emerald Tablet, and was it jasper? But then the stories go, no, it was translucent. Was it emerald? There were emerald mines, functioning emerald mines in ancient Egypt at the time. But what if it was translucent but not emerald? What if the Emerald Tablet was printed, or was crafted, etched on Moldavite? What if, and I'm really rabbit holing with you, so bear with me. What if the Hermetic principles are encoded into Moldavite? We in modern society interpret everything so literally that we think an Emerald Tablet must have been etched, or it must have been inscribed. But what if it's not? What if it's a living energy field that inhabits any piece of that stone? Why do you think? And again, keep going with me, right? I'm open to you telling me any other reasonable suggestion for why King Tut was flipping fascinated with Moldavite. I mean, I'm open to a lot of different reasons, but why would he? Because now as the story deepens, he had to send an expedition where he was in Egypt and where the desert is, where the glass has turned up, and where the crater is, they think the origin of the glass itself. Why would he have been so obsessed with that material? And if the Hermetic principles found or encoded into this Emerald Tablet is in fact the most important information ever shared from the sky gods, right? Because ostensibly that's what Hermes is, right? Ever shared from the sky gods, right? The Anu, right? To us. If that's the most important piece of information, think about how many stones you have that have that kind of a vibration to them, that could actually hold within them physically residue from outside our own solar system, right? So anyway, I've been putting all these pieces together in my mind, and I'm very curious. Oh, the root word of emerald is just the color, just like so many stones when you trace it back. So it doesn't have that connection to it. It's very interesting. Okay, so let's go back. I'm gonna get you in the mood for Egypt, and then we'll come back and continue talking. I want to invite you, if you haven't anointed yet, just take a few drops of your oil. Nice, deep, slow inhale. I'm going to anoint just a little bit more so you can really have a sensory experience of tonight's work. So important. Pine, by the way, activates dormant wisdom. So that's why that's there. Okay. Whew. You ready? You ready to enter Egypt with me? I'm just going to read to you for a minute. So tonight, I want you to enter Egypt with me. And I want you to enter Egypt with confidence, priestess, for you have been here before. And oh, how you have longed to return. The warm winds are greeting you now, and your desert home has been prepared for your arrival. Gaze out over the miles of windswept lands and let your vision fall soft as you immediately sense some part of your old self is rising and returning. It is sunset, priestess. It is dusk, and all across the land there's a slow hush and a golden glow as preparations are made for nightfall. Tonight's ceremony is an attunement ritual honoring Thoth, a passageway for you to download wisdom and light languages that are familiar to your soul but have been long forgotten by your tired waking mind. You have prepared for many moons for this ritual, and now is the time of your return to your roots, to your deep inner knowing. After tonight, you will lose your fear and all of your insecurities will melt away in the awareness of your divine connection to all time, all space, and all matter. Thoth is here, as are his priests, and the torches are lit, the incense wafting on the winds, finding its way to you. You gather your sacred supplies, and with a slight sense of curiosity mixed with reverence and anticipation, you make your way to the temple's western entrance. You enter at the west tonight, because that is the direction of insight, vision, access. In the west, we find the water element, represented so powerfully here in the Egyptian landscape in the form of the River Nile. The other elements are present too. Air is present in the warm winds that caress you. Earth is present in the floors beneath your feet, the great marble and onyx tiles, the quartz obelisks. Fire is present as well in the torches that are lit, the candles, all illuminating one clear path to the inner temple doors where you are being summoned. And as you walk past the great statues in the Hall of Kings, you suddenly feel short of breath. There's so much energy and so much power here, and you can feel it. In fact, you forgot what it was like to feel so in awe, so small, and yet so much a big, full, and powerful part of all that is. As you leave the energy of your modern mundane life behind and begin to partake of the sweet honey wines and the delicious date cakes that are being served to you along with the ripest of fruits and honey-dipped breads, you soften and find yourself allowing yourself to enjoy this moment. You not only hear, but you feel the rhythmic pulse of the hand drum, and you watch as exotic dancers begin to form a line. They're creating a procession in the inner courtyard where mounds of fragrant wax are melting in the late afternoon sun, releasing the scent of their oils into the desert air. Tonight, the high priest has set an intention for easy access of knowledge for you. He's also set the intention for easy access of love, wisdom, and power. He has called upon Ra himself to send his light and his force into the heart of each person in the circle tonight, opening their hearts to the sun god through the power of prayer, which would have mirrored the morning prayers to Ra in everything in Egypt, a cycle. Egyptians knew that the light of the sun god could only be transmitted when the lower self or ego is overcome. There are initiates in the temple tonight, priestess. And for them, this ritual is a significant rite of passage, part of the process of joining you in the priesthood. The high priest tonight is adorned in white linen, and his clothing is soft to the touch. He wears a crown of soft white feathers, and his crown is set with jewels. A stone altar is in the main hall of the temple and holds small oil lamps that have been lit, first the left, then the right. Many who have come tonight have fasted, while others are enjoying the sweets and the fruits, for each is on a different path. Some are followers, some are initiates, some are seekers, but all are welcome here. Life was simpler once. It was more vast and meaningful too. You were powerful and wise, and none of your efforts, none of that wisdom has been wasted. Your soul remembers these moments, these scents, these feelings. The darkness now gives way to the glow of candlelight throughout the temple, and you find yourself walking along the long corridor toward the innermost sanctum. This is truly an angelic gathering, and it is happening in your honor. You have been brought here to this vast temple space. Pour the holy waters upon your head, spread the sacred smoke across your chest, and said all of the holy words, transferring the codes to you now. This is no ordinary assembly. This has been your divine calling. This is your cosmic lineage. Your heart is pure, and in this consecrated space, you vibrate with the frequency of all time. This is your coronation, and tonight you are wearing the robes of the ancient ones. They fit you well. Aho, and so it is. So it is. So it is. So I want to circle back quickly to the Philosopher's Stone. Just let you soften and come out of that little place we just went together. So lovely. I when I channel these pieces for you, I do it with so much love, you know, and it's inspiring to me how it flows through. So I hope you enjoy that, because that's one way. I'm really grateful that you enjoyed it, and thank you for your words in the feed, because I really try. That's my way of bringing it to life for you. Everybody has their different way, but words are my way. Okay, so this is a translation. Are you ready? This is a translation about the Philosopher's Stone, or the material that I described to you earlier that I think is Moldavite. So I want you to listen to this and see if you think that it's referring to Moldavite. Are you ready? These words are true concerning the stone of the philosophers. This is a Hermetic text. What rises above comes from that left below, and what is below comes from the above, to work the miracle of creation of the one stone. So this is a hybrid. What they're doing is adding certain words to the primary Hermetic principles to show you how it relates to the Philosopher's Stone. The stone's father is the sun, its mother is the moon. The wind carried the stone in its womb, the earth breast fed it. The stone is the father of all works of wonder in the world, and its power is complete. With the color of fire and ashes, one stone comes up from the earth, and you must separate the earth from the stone, the precious from the gross, gently with great industry. The stone arises from the earth and descends from heaven. Thus it gathers to itself the strength of all things above and all things below. Thus, when you have the Philosopher's Stone, the light of lights, the darkness of ignorance will flee from you. In the stone is power, strong with the strength of all power, for the stone will penetrate all mysteries and dispel all ignorance. Thus was the world of man created. In the future, wonderful developments will be made, and the Philosopher's Stone is the way. I am Hermes, the threefold sage, so named because I hold the three elements of all wisdom, the animal, the mineral, the vegetable. It's interesting, isn't it? Woo! Okay. By the way, we're going to go until about 15 minutes after the top of the hour, if you want to kind of gauge your time, because we're going to dive right in to these emerald tablets now and go through the 7 Hermetic principles so I can show you, at least from my perspective, how they work together to unlock all of the mysteries. Yeah, and I know some of you have received these and heard these and worked with these before, and some of you are brand new. So I'm kind of like striking in the middle. Hopefully I'm keeping those of you who know more, you know, well engaged and interested, but I also hope I'm not losing those of you who are new. So let me know. There are no dumb questions. I don't want you to feel, well, thank you for that. I don't want you to feel like you're being left behind, because you're certainly not. And I think it's a good idea for us all to have a refresh on some of these concepts. Okay, so there are 7. And the number 7 is important, right? In spirituality, in every major spiritual tradition, 7 is considered the completion of a cycle, good luck, good fortune. It's usually a number that signals the completion. So it does not surprise me at all that there are 7 principles. And so the first principle, here's what happened with the law of attraction, my theory, okay? I think the law of attraction, it was almost like somebody read the first 2 principles and got bored, or thought they had enough, and kind of built the law of attraction based on just those 2. But they didn't read the other 5. And here's the thing with the law of attraction, they're all connected. So, you know, 1 sort of leads to 2, which leads to 3. And then the last one is actually a riddle. You know, gender is not just about men and women, it's about integration, because we are all both. And in fact, you can't manifest unless you have the complete energetic integration of the divine masculine and feminine. It's one of the key principles. So I think what happened is that someone in creating the law of attraction, which, by the way, I mean, when I say that stuff on Facebook, I kind of laugh, because it really is such an incomplete theory that I'm surprised it works for almost anybody. And it doesn't really work for very many people, which is why, you know, people keep having to do something else, because it's incomplete. But as you hear Hermes Thoth, right, because it's Hermes channeling Thoth, as you hear him say that the wisdom is complete, that statement is uttered over and over and over again. There's nothing missing from the 7 principles. So the first principle is mentalism. These you don't have to write down. You could find this. These 7 principles are everywhere online. So this is very basic information I'm giving to you right now. The first principle is mentalism. And what it says is all is in the mind. Now you could look at that, and you can look at all 7 of these actually and say, well, that's kind of simple. I think I get it. I'll move on. Except what the mentalism principle is telling you is that visualization is the most important tool you have. It's the most important tool you've ever had, in fact. Your ability to imagine is your power. If you can imagine it, it can happen for you. And in fact, your spirit guides use your imagination as a tool. I think I have this in my notes to tell you. If I don't, I'll find it in my notes and come back to you. Your spirit guides, I'll come back to it. Your spirit guides actually use your imagination. So the first thing they do is they shift when they're trying to do work on you, your guides, they shift your frequency. That's the first thing they do. So they come in and they raise your frequency. That changes your thoughts. And it also changes what you daydream about. And it changes what you think about. Your thoughts are planted, right? Your thoughts are encoded many times. You think something just came to you, but did it really? Or is it your spirit guides, right? Those rabbit holes you go down that you think are all your idea. Okay, so mentalism, your thoughts create your reality. And in this moment right now, you are already creating tomorrow and an hour from now and next year. So as soon as you think, okay, I'm good, you got to stay there because you're already creating the next round. You can't get lazy, right? You can't rest on your laurels because your mind has to continue to perpetuate the next level of your evolution. That's number 1. So the law of attraction people got that, right? They're like, yeah, visualization. Okay, cool. I want to go to Costa Rica. I'm going to visualize Costa Rica. Okay, I'm going to keep visualizing it for a few more seconds to make sure I have the vibration. Okay. And then they go about their day. They don't think about whether they're maintaining that vibration, right? They don't continue to send energy toward that intention. And in fact, they say things and maybe even do things that undermine their own ability to do that without maybe realizing it. So the second Hermetic principle is correspondence. I have been teaching correspondence for 7 years through Sage Goddess. It's the most important part of magic because correspondence shows you how energy multiplies. And I always use the example of money magic, right? But you do a money ritual in May, which is the money month, at 5 p.m., which is the money time, on a Taurus full moon, which is the money planet, in the money phase, with citrine, which is the money stone, with basil and cinnamon essential oils, which are money oils. You burn a green candle, which is the color money. Boom, 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 boom. That's why people do that. Why do you think we work with magical tools? The reality is, if you have tonight's tools, I believe you're going to get more out of our ritual together. But that's because of correspondence and because of the intention I set when I worked, especially with that emerald. So there is something to energy and correspondence. Doesn't mean you won't have a good experience, but it will be different. There's a reason. So correspondence is the second one. Now, I do think, and what correspondence basically says is everything in your external world is a representation of what's in your internal world. Everything. So if you look at your life, your outside life, your relationship, your work, your family, your kids, your friends, where you live, everything in your external world is a reflection by virtue of principle number 2, because it corresponds. It's a direct reflection and an enhancement of your own vision. You created that. And so again, it's knowing that number 2 is almost like the result of number 1. Number 1 is the visualization. Number 2 is great. Now you visualized. Remember how I said they build on each other? All of a sudden you created your external world. And your external world is both a reflection and a magnification of your internal. Now, this is what gets really tricky too, because when people say, I'm going to set an intention for health, but their health may be very poor. It's very hard to hold a frequency to support that intention when your external world doesn't reflect it. Does that make sense? It'd be really easy to set an intention for health if you were healthy, you'd be like, yeah, more of that. But you probably aren't. If you're setting an intention for health, it's probably because you're not. And so you have to have faith. Even though your outside world doesn't look like health, you have to hold that vibration. And this is why I do believe these are the keys to the universe. If you follow all 7 of these, you will manifest. And if your intention is pure, you'll manifest something of value, because all energy is neutral. It just depends on your intention. So you can do manifestation work and set an intention to manifest something negative, and you sure will. Or you can do manifestation work and set an intention to use it for something positive, and you sure will. So energy itself is neutral. It's what happens in the hands of the owner. It's like a car. A car doesn't want to go have an accident, but it's in the hands of an owner. And that owner either has good or bad intentions. And the nice thing is you're only responsible for you. You don't have to worry about anybody else's energy, because at the end of the day, that's their dharma and their karma. So if they set a negative intention and create harm, as long as you're not party to that and that's not your intention, you don't have to worry about the consequences of that. Okay, number 3, principle of vibration. This principle says everything is moving, nothing is at rest. We know this from physics, right? Like modern day physics has actually borne out the reality, the truth of, and the accuracy, I should say, of the Hermetic principles, right? So everything is in motion, nothing rests. Okay, why is this important? And why do I feel like the law of attraction kind of left this out a little bit? Because you have to maintain the frequency. Energy will always, align itself to the lowest frequency it finds. This is the trick of energy. So it acclimates itself, it calibrates itself to the lowest frequency it can access. That's why if you walk into a house, even if you're in a great mood and something just happened, have you guys had this happen to you? You will walk into that house and it doesn't matter how great of a mood you were in, right? All of a sudden, boom, now you're here. And you want to get the H out of there usually, right? Because you want to get your vibe back. And it's almost like walking in molasses, isn't it? When you're around somebody or a place and the vibe is low, it's like, get me out. My husband and I, for a long time, had a code word, like to help each other get out of weird situations. Because as a married couple, you find yourself in weird places and it's weird, especially with kids, we got to have like a safe word. So we had a word for like, let's get each other out of here kind of thing when stuff like that would happen. Okay, so the higher the vibration, the more powerful the spirit behind it. The higher the vibration, the more powerful the spirit behind it. So if you want to manifest, not only do you have to find the vibration and calibrate yours to what you desire, but now you got to stay here. You can't just immediately drop to whatever is happening around you all the time. That's right. And, for a lot of us, you guys, and Julie's mentioned that, work and stuff like that, and Lisa too, that's what happens to a lot of people. At work, you kind of can't avoid it. At home with your family, that's some tricky shit. What do you do if it's your husband? Right? A lot of us have been in that place, right? Where either my relationship is in really good shape now, but there was a time where it was really hard, as every married couple who's been together for decades will tell you. And what do you do when it's your own home? Or, for some of you, it's your kids. For some of you, it's your in-laws. It's really hard. I'm not saying it's easy. Principle number 4 is polarity. Everything is dual. And everything has an opposite. Okay, are you ready for this? I hope this is really interesting to you. And I also hope I can keep my voice. I'm going to drink a little bit more tea. Everything has an opposite. Love, hate, right? I actually think the opposite of love is a lack of consciousness. I don't think it's really hatred. I think it's nothing. But let's just use love and hate, right? Thank you guys. I appreciate it. I'm receiving that, Megan. And so let's say you set an intention for love, you're trying to hit here, okay? But Here's what I want you to learn from tonight. Are you ready? Because this is going to solve a lot of your dilemmas. When you set an intention for love, you open an energy stream. Are you ready? I want you to imagine a line. And because everything has an opposite, you have also opened its opposite. Do you see why these Hermetic principles are so flipping mind-blowing? Now, maybe you know this. No one has ever taught me this. But I've put it together over the 30 years I've been doing this. And it made so much sense for me. When you set an intention for love, you open the whole spectrum to its opposite. And what happens is, if your vibe gets low, what happens? You start out over here. Here's love. But when your vibe goes down, how effing close do you get to hate? How close do you get? I mean, come on now, right? Is this like straight up truth? I'm telling you guys, I don't know why no one has ever said this, but I feel like it was one of the huge discoveries of my adult magical life. So guess what you have to do? You've opened the stream, and listen, it's not all unicorns and rainbows. So you didn't just open love. You opened its opposite. And if you don't raise your vibe, you're going to end up over here. And then you come to someone like me and you say, I don't know why it's not working. I set the intention. I lit that damn candle. I said that prayer. I held that stone. I stuck it in my bra. And you know what? I give up. I'm not even going to do it anymore. It didn't work. Are you kidding me right now? You straight up opened that energy stream. It's wide open for you. And then you dropped it like it was hot. And now you've got a bucket of hate. And you want to know why it didn't work. And now instead of working harder, you're going to not use your tools, or you're going to stop your practice, or you're going to stop meditating. What do you think that's going to do? That's actually going to put you in the bucket. That's going to sit you in that bucket. And then you feel like you can't get out, right? You can't get out. It's like, God, how do I fix this? You can close the stream, but why would you do that? Because then you cut yourself off from love. That was the whole point in the first place. And then if you want to open that stream again, now you got to go back and do double work, because you got to go back and open that stream again. Right? Okay. So now let's pull this back to law of attraction. Do you see where I'm going? Right? I mean, it's like, it isn't that easy. And so people get frustrated. I want my money back. I made my vision board and I didn't get any of the things that I, glued pictures of, onto my board. Nothing came. Yeah, because they opened an energy stream and then walked away and said it didn't work. And if they had just held, then they see people who do manifest. I mean, I'm good at manifestation because I do the things I'm telling you. And they'll ask me, well, how come it works for you? Because I'm working real hard over here to stay right. I know exactly what's going to happen if I let my vibe drop. Unless I close that energy stream, I'm going to end up in trouble. It's frustrating. Okay, so that's number 4, polarity. You ready for my favorite? Number 5 is the principle of rhythm, which has nothing to do with rhythm. Now, again, I think people read the Hermetic principles and go, rhythm, okay, I don't understand what that means. Rhythm is about the flow of energy. So now we know energy exists, and we know it exists in a stream, and we know it exists in a spectrum. And so because each principle builds on the previous, this one is about how that stream is going. And of course, you want it going one direction, because you want it going toward the highest possible expression of the energy stream that you opened. You want it going there. And so the principle of rhythm dictates that you direct flow with your intention. So you need to now set the intention to maintain a unidirectional flow toward your specific intention and which end of the polarity spectrum, right? I see your question, Haley. No, I don't talk about anything during live class. That is on the classroom page, because I feel like you kind of already read that. I don't want to bore you. So I save all the juicy, sexy, non-written stuff for class. Okay. Principle number 6. So you direct the flow. Remember, everything has tides. Okay. So you want to be moving with the tide, not against the tide. But again, how many of you feel like in your life, you're working against the tide? I mean, I know you do. Hi, you're in the group. I mean, it feels like 50% of the time people are saying it's like uphill battle. You know, why am I doing this? I can't keep doing this much longer. I'm so tired. I give up. Because you're like this. Here's love. Here's hate. And you need to do this. That's why I started tonight's whole class telling you the goal is integration. The goal is integration. It's not happy, happy, joy, joy. It's so that you don't do this. This is actually happiness. This is mania. Can't live here either. This is happiness. This is depression, right? Like this is like real shitty. Nobody wants that. Okay. You decide the flow. Number 6, cause and effect. Your words and thoughts are pure energy. And every action that you take has a reaction that it causes. And you are responsible, not just for your actions, but for every consequence of your actions. You say one thing to someone that hurts them, and it ends up hurting them for 20 years, and it ends up changing the way they treat people in their life. So it ends up hurting everyone around them for 20 years. You are responsible for every person affected by the words that you said for as long as it lasts. And that's why a lot of you are like, I can't get out of this karmic bind that I'm in. It's like, well, the first thing you got to do is stop doing that. I mean, at some point you have to live your life right. You got to get in alignment. You're either going to, you know, I mean, we all have a shadow, but you got to control it because you are responsible for the effects of it. It doesn't make you bad to have a shadow. We all do. But when it harms people, you are responsible for that. And you're responsible until it's done. Okay? So cause and effect. Your words and your thoughts are pure energy. Every word that you say is, think of it, I mean, the word spell, right? Cast a spell is related to the word spelling. And there's a reason for that. Your words are spells. You are spelling your reality. So, and I see people do stuff on Facebook sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even want to repeat it, but like with memes that they think are funny, but it's like, they're actually really cursing themselves. And they're cursing themselves for as long as that meme is posted on their wall, which in some cases, they don't ever take them down. So do you know what I'm saying? This is Hermetic law. This isn't, and again, this isn't me being judgmental. I literally look sometimes and I'm like, I wonder if that person knows. I've been tempted sometimes to write to people and say, I see your posts. You're always talking about how hard life is. And I really feel for you. I have a lot of compassion for you. Have you ever looked at maybe the relationship between your posts and your life? Because your posts are energy. And did you know that you're responsible for the reaction of every single person who looks at your post? I think about like animal abuse stuff, right? Or any triggering posts online. You're responsible for the harm that post does, which is really interesting because in a lot of those cases, people are trying to stop harm to animals, but they end up causing collateral damage by virtue of energetic triggers, and they're responsible for the effects of all of that. So there's this, again, it's like we can't get and then people don't understand why their life isn't good. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. Okay, so you are responsible for those. Now, here's the number one thing I want to tell you about cause and effect. You ready? This is where law of effect failed. Okay, and I think this might be the biggest miss for law of attraction. You can't just say you want something and put a picture of it on the wall and raise your vibration. That is not enough. You have to take a step in the direction of that intention. And that step, by virtue of cause and effect, in the context of manifestation, that step is going to bring you the first piece of what you desire. It's actually the first concrete step of manifestation, is the first action you take toward it. Even if that's just sending an email or, you know what I mean? Or like you set an intention, you want to get a job, putting your application out there is following Hermetic principle number 6. There will be an effect. You will cause an effect, which will be that the energy will be stronger. It's a correspondence, but it's so powerful, cause and effect, not just in negative terms, but in positive terms, that it has its own principle. which is pretty powerful when you think about it. Okay, the last principle is the one people blow off the most because it's gender, and it sounds dumb. Okay, the principle says all things are gendered. All things are masculine and feminine, right? I've heard people say things, everything from, well, yeah, in a lot of languages, there's masculine and feminine words. That's true. Everything is masculine and feminine. They give these like really superficial interpretations of that. I don't think it has anything to do with men and women at all. I think the secret, because every one of the principles is a riddle. That's what you have to remember. They're all riddles. I think the secret of this principle and the riddle behind it is divine masculine and divine feminine. You cannot manifest unless you are the integration of masculine and feminine, and unless that is represented in what you're trying to manifest. And that's to create cosmic balance. Number 7, the reason the universe doesn't let anybody manifest unless they do all 7 is that the universe only wants to manifest through you if it's going to serve the divine balance of the greater collective. Does that make sense? You are part of the whole. So you don't get to have something just to satisfy you. It may satisfy you, but the universe is always looking at this. And if what you want is not going to serve this, in my opinion, it's not going to happen. So it is the head and the heart. It is the linear and the curved, right? It is the objective and the subjective. It is the right and the left, right? It is also the elemental balances, right? The balance of the intuition with logic and reason. It's all of these things. And that's why I'm saying, I was saying earlier, if you take classes and this isn't baked into the curriculum of it, it concerns me, because you can even see in every indigenous, tribal, spiritual context, the inflection of these principles in one way or another. They're just given different names, but everyone has had access to this text all the way back to the Secret Secretorum, and even further beyond, in advance of that. Before that was just a translation. So that is the alchemy of the Hermetic principles. So I want you to take your candle. I want you to take your emerald stone if you have it. I think there are still a few kits left. And so all the kits that are left have emeralds that I worked with. So if there's any kits left and you get one, you will still get one that has the energy of these pieces. So here's mine. It has a special place where it actually would fit beautifully across my third eye. So that's what I'm going to do. Just put it on your third eye and close your eyes. And so tonight, in each other's beautiful sacred company, I ask for open access to all of the wisdom codes that are needed for everyone in this circle tonight. I ask for the integration of these Hermetic principles. I ask for each sister in this group to be shown how to work with these principles with her own goals, her own needs, and her own desires. I ask that the integration of these principles into each of your practices will completely transform the way you see your life and your problems. It won't change your problems. It won't remove your problems, but it certainly will allow you to see them as an agent, as someone who has the ability to change the outcome, to affect the outcome, and how your thoughts and your actions and your gestures and your intentions are shaping every moment, your experience of your life right now. I ask for this blessing of this wisdom upon these sisters at this time, for the highest good of our entire collective and also for our entire planet, because as we heal, as we integrate, as we balance ourselves, by virtue of the principle of correspondence, the external world being a complete and true reflection of the internal world, so we will also heal, balance, integrate, and restore our planet. And ultimately, that is why we are here, to be good agents of change and facilitators of ascension. And so together in your beautiful company tonight, I love you so much. I feel so much love for our circle right now. So much beauty, so much gratitude for the magic we get to work together. It's truly special, beyond words, really. So with so much gratitude for all of you and for the magic that's flowing in our circle right now. And to those who will watch later, amen, aho, and so it is. Amen, aho, and so it is. So this one's going in the bra. It's pretty special, right? That, I will tell you, that is a power crystal for you now. That's one of those that shouldn't leave your side. I call them power crystals. Just, you know, the crystals that you use when you really want to pull out the big guns, the ones that have the stronger energy that you have used specifically in ritual, and that you will always remember what that represents, which is your wisdom. And you'll always see me doing this probably when you hold that stone. Like, that's your way back. Because you have that wisdom within you. It's already there. So tonight the codes get transferred and the energy gets shifted. Your perspective, right, gets opened and adjusted just a little bit, and all of a sudden it's much easier to see. And we've opened your aperture a little bit. So, oh, you're so welcome. Okay. Like I said, now you see why this is going to be your workhorse, because whenever you work with these principles, this is your candle. Whenever you do manifestation now, I would read each one of the principles out loud when you do your manifestation work. So this should be on your prosperity altar, your manifestation altar. Cheers. And thank you to Thoth for being a steady and gracious guide tonight as we enter the wisdom chamber together and engage with these principles that are literally as old as time. Here's an interesting thought for you, and then I'll tell you about what's in the shop because it is pretty special. You've had other magical lifetimes. So have I, right? And I actually think in the case of a lot of us, I think we had some of those together, which is exciting. That's why it's like a remembering in so many cases with Sabbatical, right? It doesn't feel, and when a lot of us get to see each other once a year, some people, you know, a lot of people fly into LA, so I get to meet a lot of the sisters at least once over the course of our relationship. And it's not awkward or weird. It's just like, oh, there you are. You know, it just feels so natural and normal. And I think that's why. I really do believe that's why. And so it becomes this reconnection. In those magical lifetimes, you were working with these principles. I guarantee you. That's what's killer about this stuff. That's what keeps me so engaged in what we're doing. I never lose my passion for what we're doing because you've seen these before. You've worked with them before. We're at whatever magical lifetime you were in, some iteration of these principles followed you. So aho to that, right? It's just a remembering of information, not so much a learning. And I'm proud to be in your company. Okay, so I did 20 Love as an appreciation really for you. So it is not a public sale. I ask that you please don't disclose the code. I think we might be doing it for members. So it might actually be across GemWise and Aeromagic, but it is not outside of our community, our online class community. So please don't share. Love 20. And I put something in the shop called the Wisdom Well. A few of you have asked me to do a sabbatical specific well offering, and I've never done it. And I was thinking about how many of you have asked, you know, if I write in, do you have a candle for this, or specific products that you're looking for, a specific intention, and we haven't had anything specifically for you. And then I thought about this perfume I have made called Satori. Satori is instantaneous enlightenment and bliss. Satori. I'm never going to sell Satori because it's too expensive. There's a little dram in your wisdom well as my gift. We only have 100. We can't make any more Satori than that. It's night blooming jasmine, dawn blooming jasmine, 2 types of rukus from India, frankincense. It is, you've never smelled anything like it. I used Satori when Louie and Momo were here. So if you were here that night, Satori is what you smelled. So you've been asking me, will we ever get that? This is the only way to get Satori. But you're also going to get, so there are 3 questions in the listing. If you purchase it, please make sure you answer all 3 questions. I'm going to print them all out and then go on the hunt for you. So these are very specific well offerings. We won't be able to do them again just because we don't have Satori. So enjoy that one if you're called to it. If not, enjoy the rest of your evening. It has been such a pleasure to be with you tonight and to teach you about these principles that I think are truly going to impact your practice in so many ways. And if you're experienced, I want you to see them with new eyes, you know, engage that beginner mind and see if you can't find a way to make what you've known for a long time become fresh and interesting to you again. I think you'll really see the power of that when you do. Oh, you're so welcome, you guys. I believe if Team SG is online, maybe they can put the link up for the Wisdom Well directly for you. I think it's in today's new offerings. We just put it up at 5 p.m. It is only for Sabbatical members, and it says that very clearly, by the way, so you don't have to worry about competing. Other people wouldn't want to answer all those questions anyway, probably, so you're probably safe. All right, you guys, well, I'm going to head off and have some more tea and rest my voice for the night. We have our really fun live specimen sale tomorrow at 4 p.m., more Tucson goodies. And then I'm teaching a free class called The Magic of Astrology on Thursday, which is kind of like a fun overview. And so if you're around, I know a lot of you are experienced with astrology, it's going to be a little bit more of a basic class. But if you know anybody who wants to learn about astrology, we've got quite a few people coming on Thursday nights. There's going to be a lot of energy, a lot of Q&A. And so you guys can look forward to that as well. All right. So much love from my heart to yours. I'll see you in our Facebook group. Can't wait to hear your comments and everything that you saw and experienced tonight. I'll see you soon.